Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of How to Draw Cars. Today we're going to talk about wheels. So the thing to remember about wheels is there aren't any easy ways to get better at drawing wheels except drawing lots of wheels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some sort of secrets that may help you. Hopefully they will. You let me know. Basically figure out how tall your wheel is going to be and how wide your wheel is going to be. This is a side view. And put little dots in that are about even, and then when you go to do your circle, you basically can shoot for those dots. So again, and dot, 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 make your circle. Cross, make them even, dot, 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 make your circle. It's not rocket science, it just takes practice. Now, if you want to set up a sheet, you can mathematically set up a sheet where your horizontal is going all the way across. So we'll do another row here. So if you have the same, if here's the top of your wheel, and that's your halfway point to your wheel, then it's just a matter of figuring out how wide it is. But you can put in your vertical, and now you've got your height. You know your height's going to be that big. Here's your width, dot, 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 dot. And now when you make your circle, you can aim for those dots. And don't try to make the circle in one line. You can't, if you try to do that, you'll be too tight, you'll tighten up, and you're not going to get there. Drawing wheels is the same as drawing your speed form lines, where you're trying to, do this interesting shapes. You can't do it if you're drawing like this. You've got to let it flow. You've got to let the lines move and dance and get some gesture and some attitude and some dynamic. And doing wheels is the same thing. So you basically, again, want to put your vertical in, put your horizontal in, put some think dots, I like to call them, and then just try to get your circle to pass through the dots. And you can do this for hours, literally, because that's basically how much practice it takes to get good at it. You fill up, get an 18 by 24 size pad, fill it up, put your dots in, and just make your circles. And again, drawing from your shoulder, always drawing from your shoulder. When it comes to doing circles, draw from your shoulder. And then you can just do whatever you want over top of them. And you can build your form from there in your side view. You want to put in your horizontal and your vertical and your horizontal, put the edges visually, and just try to link those together. And if you fill a pad like this, 100 sheets, 50 sheets up, I guarantee that at the end of the pad, your circles will look better, your wheels will look better than when you started. All right, so another thing I want to talk about when it comes to doing ellipses and wheels and rims and that sort of thing is to make sure when you put your ground plane in that your vertical line for your ellipse is square, is perpendicular to the ground plane. The ellipse should not be this way, it should not be that way, it should be square. So just like this is square to the page, it's sitting square at a right angle to the page, that's how your ellipse should be sitting relative to your ground line. Now I know in racing sometimes they do toe in and different things with the rims, but for your car design drawings, unless you're specifically drawing a race car and you want to show that, draw your ellipses square to your ground plane. And when I say square, that's a square right there. That's the square I'm talking about. This is your X, this is your Y, and this is your Z axis. Right? So again, as a car designer, you have to learn how to think in 3 dimensions because that's ultimately what you're designing is a 3-dimensional thing. The drawing is just showing somebody that you know what it is that you want to build. So there are my dots, and I put in my ellipse. That's a pretty short wheelbase, but again, do another one. Square, square to this line. Here's my y-axis. There's the square. Go across, dot, dot, dot. It's a little bit narrow. And then throw in my ellipse. Okay, let's try it in a different view. Let's try the front side view, right? So you've got your ground plane. Again, always put in your ground plane. Here's my center line, my ellipse. It's going to live in there, right? So my rear wheel should be back here. If I make this way, which would not be perpendicular, or if I make it that way, which would not be perpendicular, see how weird that looks? If I do it this way, it looks like there's something wrong with the axle. Now you might have a Tron bike or some kind of futuristic thing where you're doing this on purpose, and in your design notes it calls out why that is that way. In a motorcycle, you might have a motorcycle going around a turn. You might want to be showing that. But at the end of the day, when you're drawing cars, make your vertical axis of your ellipse parallel to your ground plane, and you will improve your quality of your ellipses and your wheels and tires on your car design drawings 100% if you do that every time. So do that every time. If you want a secret, that's one of the secrets to doing wheels and tires more accurately in car design drawings. Now you might say, hey Mike, what about the top side view where the ellipse changes and becomes the long axis is in this view and not the vertical view? That's a good question, but it works the same way, and I'll show you how it works. So here's your ground plane, right? So everything is going back in space now. It's 1 point perspective. Let's find room to put the axle. Okay, so it's the same thing. Here's the top of my wheel. Here's my center line, horizontal center line. Here's my vertical center line. 1, 2, 3. And the width of this ellipse, the width of the short axis, will depend on how tipped up the car is. So if I want to make this a concave rim, this is my axle. The center of my hub would be inboard of this plane, and I would get a concave rim. It works the same way if you're doing a tip side view. If you're seeing, just draw a quickie speed form. Say, okay, that's my form. So what about my wheels? Okay, so here's my center line. Here's my center line. Those are the axles. Here's the top of my wheel. Here's the top of my wheel. That's my long axis now, because horizontal, because I'm looking down on the car. And my wheels are going to live in here, and here, and here. And that's basically how I would build that. So it works the same way. It doesn't matter what your long axis, short axis. Dot, dot, dot. Draw through the dots. Try it again. Ground plane, vertical, horizontal axis is wider. Dot, dot, dot. Connect the dots. And when you practice, you should practice both types of ellipses. One where the long axis is horizontal and one where the long axis is vertical. Because you're going to do car design drawings that take both of those into account. You don't want to just know how to do one, you want to know how to do all of them. Alright guys, that'll do it for now. Be sure to tune in for part 2, where we're going to talk about wheel design. If you're interested in one-on-one live tutoring over Skype, check out howtodrawcars.net and sign up for a session. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.